Friday, September 6th, one game already in the books, a fun Thursday nighter to kick off the season. Welcome to Wake Up. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger. Great to see you here. Like and subscribe because we're just getting underway in an awesome football season. Larry, good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Last night.
Oh, man. So let me get this straight. We've been watching football for a long time. And it used to be where if you flinched at all on the offensive line, it was a false start. Now you can kind of rock forward and keep doing this little rock forward thing and then rock back. I don't get what I saw last night on the non-calls against the offensive lineman for the chief offensive lineman on the right side, especially for false starts. It just seemed like their right tackle false started all night long.
And it was like Lane Johnson gets to get away with a lot of stuff at right tackle. Now we're going to let this right. If Colton McKivitz can play like this, I'm not worried about a season at all.
right.
But
just keep rocking. Just keep rocking back and forth.
Look, this isn't just our opinion. This is what everyone was talking about last night.
Yeah, we could show it to you if we could probably find it.
It's
amazing.
Not to mention, Larry, I mean, there had to have been in the first column dozen plays of the season, there had to have been 6 flags, right? For illegal formation. So they're being really particular about everything else. But one of the most glaring looking false starts I've ever seen is totally ignored, which is odd. And, shame on the refs for getting right in the way of us just talking about, like, wasn't that a fun football game? That was something else, man. You saw the best of Patrick Mahomes on display. You saw the best of Lamar Jackson. You also saw the limitations of the Ravens offense and the fact that he basically has a couple of tight ends and good luck with that at wide receiver. And, man, I mean, game of inches cliche got to be pulled out right in night one because I had likely been wearing size 10 cleats instead of size 11 and a half. Ravens are, maybe winning that game by going for 2. So did you see
what was Lamar saying at the presser? It's like, I thought it was a touchdown. I still think it's a touchdown. Bro, the guy's toe. I mean, I was rooting for it to be a touchdown. I mean, it's not like, anybody has a vested interest in this thing necessarily. But the toe was on the line. I mean, it was pretty clear. I thought the camera angles were spectacular.
Yes,
and we got like an extra camera angle this time.
The first camera angle, which came from like the back of the end zone, you couldn't really tell. But then they went to the sideline down the back of the end zone line, and you could just see. I mean, by the hair of his chinny chin. He was like Kevin Durant on the 3-point line. I mean, it was that toenail, but it was there.
He was out. And by the way, who's a big loser last night, Damon?
Who?
The people who own Mark Andrews in the fantasy league, because Isaiah likely to be the guy who puts up all the numbers there. So if he had gotten that catch, it would have been like 12 for almost 150 and 2 touchdowns from your tight end.
Larry,
that would have been a great day.
On my bench. I got him on my bench. So
that's not the worst thing for week 1. Guys, it's not the worst thing to have somebody go off who's younger in week 1 and then put him in there the rest of the year.
Yeah, I feel good about having him, especially in a keeper league. But it was a great way to get the season going. And it continues this evening. Friday night, we got a game from Oi Tutubang, Brazil. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But obviously, we are here to talk 49ers, and the 49ers will close week 1 now that it's officially been opened by the Thursday night game. They'll close it on Monday Night Football, and we've got an awful lot to talk about there. So, formally, welcome back, all 49er fans. It's the Friday before they play. It's great to have you. Larry and I will be doing Wake Up 3 days a week, but next week, actually 4 days a week. We'll be with you on Monday. Day after game, we'll be with you on Tuesday. We will keep our regularly scheduled Wednesday appearance as well, and then we'll wrap back on Friday to get you ready for week 2. But man, Larry, here we go. We're brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. It is a fantastic restaurant in Half Moon Bay, and we're going to be telling you about it all season. We are thrilled to be partnered with Sam's Chowder House. And if you like this video, you haven't even seen the Chipino yet. wait until we get to the Chipino, Larry. I mean, it should be censored. I don't know if this is.
I wish we could have this video with a scent. You know what I mean? Maybe I wish we could smell this video.
Smell-o-vision.
This is maybe the greatest smelling restaurant of all time. Something about the seafood, being near the water, the fire, all the different things. The kitchen just, it's amazing. You sit down, you get some French bread, that great sourdough bread. You have a little butter on this French bread. Maybe you get a salad of, they do a crab louis. They have got all kinds of incredible seafood salads. Maybe you're like me and you go, hey, you know what? Oysters Rockefeller. You know what? As the owner would say, you better make that two orders.
Two of those.
Rockefeller. Amazing oysters. And then that sets your palate. Maybe if you're there with some friends in the afternoon, maybe you're having a nice cocktail of beer and you're sitting there and you just had some oysters. Maybe you ordered like a seafood pasta. One of my favorite things is they have a scallop wrapped in bacon. Oh my God. It's cooked over mashed potatoes. Damon, it's magical. So everybody check out Sam's Chowder House. And once again, if you haven't seen it, there it is. Ooh.
And look, not that we go ahead and tell you that you're going to want to really lean forward during these Barry Bonds at bats. The Barry Bonds of that menu right there it is. The lobster roll. It is unbelievable. You get it hot, you get it cold. Whichever way it floats your boat on that perfect New England kind of style bun, it is just the best. So Sam's Chowder House, awesome to have you aboard. Cannot wait to get back down there. Me and Larry are going to go eat like kings soon. I can promise you that. And we'll film the meal, Larry. We'll just get everybody jealous. We'll film the meal, and some of the B-roll that we roll will just be us stuffing our faces with oysters. Rockefeller. Yeah, good times.
So, my gosh, it's so rich, so decadent, but so fantastic.
It's so good. Let's get into what I think can only be described as good news here, Larry. Because
we can't take food anymore. We got to announce something. We're switching to football now.
We should probably talk a little football here.
Sean Turner says Food Network stream here. Thank you.
Absolutely,
Sean.
Christian McCaffrey, everyone was excited that, he's back. He's going to be practicing, but then you heard he's limited and, Christian McCaffrey might not be going in week 1. Larry, I think the player plays, he's got the most amount of time to get better than all but, every player but for 2 rosters because they don't play until Monday night. It's a long time until Monday Night Football kickoff. And it sounded certainly from John Lynch this morning on KNBR that all signs are pointing towards McCaffrey playing in this game.
He's going. Okay. I'll look you guys right in the eye and I'll tell you, he's going. Okay. So this is from somebody who's been watching him work out. He's going. I would be shocked if he doesn't go. By the way, we entitled the stream 5 49ers who were limited in practice. The 5 49ers who were limited, one of them was CMC with the, they're calling it a calf. Here's the only thing about the CMC thing that's a little dicey. It started as a calf, and then it got reintroduced, and it's like, oh, yeah, he's got a calf strain, and and by the way, he's going to shut it down. He's not going to play anymore in the preseason. He's just going to work out on the side. Okay, no big deal. And when we pressed on it, it was like, well, you know what? CMC's earned the right to be able to kind of call his shots. Okay, great. Then today, when they're going through the injuries, or yesterday, it was like, he's got a calf/Achilles injury. And I know they're very close and in the same area. And sometimes, this go back to Kevin Durant, right? Was it a calf injury? He's got a calf injury. Oh, wait, no, it's an Achilles injury. So a calf injury and you want to sit out. Okay. You could always tear the calf. But to me, the fact that he was out for a month probably tells you that it's actually the Achilles. And so, the question is, there are a lot of
things in play here. I think that there was a legitimate injury that they're trying to nurse back to health. I also think that they are, biding all, they're removing all non-essential moments from the seasons of Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams. And these guys do not need, they are not gots to have practice players. And I'm not trying to belittle practice. I'm really not. But there are certain guys where it's just the old Andrew Brandt. Andrew Brandt, the old Packer guy. Andrew Brandt, I used to talk to him.
Apologist for the Pack.
Yes. And I used to talk to him. frequently as a guest on the show. And he came up with the saying, it's just, the player plays. And Christian McCaffrey is one of those players. The player plays. He is one of those guys who, if he can be out there, he will be. And I do think that an abundance of caution has kept him off the field. An abundance of caution of NFL teams now trying to meet all new standard must be forthcoming with injuries to satisfy the gambling market. It is a different injury protocol that teams now go through with the media. So we'll probably be getting more, but it doesn't mean more of an injury.
It's not two injuries, it's the one injury, but yeah, I mean, if it's an Achilles, what do you do? I mean, I am on board for the last year and a half saying I think CMC is incredibly special, and I want to make sure that when I'm in the playoffs and hopefully in the Super Bowl that I have 100% CMC. And I felt like the Niners got to the bowl last year with CMC upright, but not 100%. And I thought he was worn down. I thought that fumble maybe had something to do with that. There's no excuse to get there with this guy run down. If you have no other backs, there's your excuse. You have other backs.
Right.
So, the question, I guess, okay, so by the way, we entitled the stream 5 49ers Limited in Practice. So the guys, the 5 49ers Limited yesterday, CMC with the calf and the calf/Achilles. Talanoa Hufanga with the knee.
And it sounds like he's playing, Larry. It sounds, or is it maybe not?
No, he's not going to go. Snaps. He's not. They're going to be very careful with him. I would say George Odom starts.
Okay.
He's not. No, I would say Hufanga's not going to go. I think they're going to be really, really safe with Hufanga. Jennings has got an ankle. He was limited. Garendo's got a groin injury. He was limited. I think that's it. Winters was
Juwan Jennings.
Oh, Banks with the pinky, but he wasn't really limited. He was out there doing everything. But yeah, he was Banks. I guess you could say he practiced, was limited. CMC practiced, but was limited. I thought CMC moved incredibly well. When I saw him out there, I saw no signs of any kinds of injuries, groin, leg of any kind. He moved exceptionally well on the practice field. I mean, he looked mid-season form. Gross Matos is out with the knee. He's not going to go this weekend. Winters has got the ankle. I believe he's out. And I don't know about his status for the game, but he was out yesterday. So, yeah. So there you go. That's your injury update. Garendo, Hufanga, Jennings, CMC, and Banks, all limited in practice. Banks is going to go. I think CMC goes. Now, they can beat the Jets without CMC. I guess the question is this, Damon. If you know that CMC has some degree, some level, and I don't know what it is, of a calf/Achilles, and as people all know, you blow the Achilles, you rupture the Achilles. That's a career-altering injury for a running back, and it's not career-ending, but it's career-altering, and it's a season-ending. So I have no problem using Jordan Mason a lot more this year. And if you're going to use him a lot more, I think it makes perfect sense to use him a lot more starting right now. Why? Yeah. Because he's in rhythm. But running back's about rhythm. You got to get rhythm. And you only get rhythm by playing. So you can't sit him for 5 weeks and be like, get out there, big boy, get a rhythm. I think you're going to get his best rhythm if you can get him out there after the preseason. And right now would be a good time. So if it is an Achilles, and if it is to anything other than just nothing, I think I would definitely use Mason, and I would even consider using Mason exclusively in some of these early games if they want to give CMC a break. There's only so many games in CMC. I'd rather have him from week 10 through the end than week 1 through 10.
I think you got to trust the player here a little bit. McCaffrey, he's smart. He knows how to take personal inventory. He knows what's on the line. He understands that a win against the Jets means nothing without a Super Bowl appearance at the end of the year. So I think that he's one of those players you can trust to make the smart and right decision about, should I go tonight? And if he says, yeah, I'm ready to go tonight, you let him go. But you also restrict him. Let's say there are 30 carries in the game. I wouldn't want him to have more than 10 on his body in this game. And you give the rest to Mason, to Debo, who I think in order to be unhatched as, weapon X, he really needs to be used a bit more as a running back this year than he was last year. I mean, Debo is good at it, and the 49ers, I think, need to ask him to do things that he's good at. He might be better out of the backfield than as a wide receiver at times. So I think between Mason and Debo, Garendo, you do not need to get the most out of Christian McCaffrey to win in week one. So I'll tell you right now, I'll trade you a loss in week one for a healthy Christian McCaffrey all year right now, sight unseen, no problem. No problem.
See, I think everybody would, but I don't know that that's even really the trade. I think it's just a matter of you may have to nurse this guy kind of through the 17 games. And if you didn't have another starting caliber back, I would be concerned. But guess what? You do. So you know what? I mean, I walk around that locker room last year, especially around playoff time, and I'm watching guys like Greenlaw, and they're barely getting up and going, right? And McCaffrey, and the violence was not evenly distributed across the roster. Greenlaw had way more than his share. CMC had way more than his share. And guess what? You wound up in the biggest game of the year, and you did not have Dre Greenlaw in the second half, and you did not have Christian McCaffrey at 100%. And you have Jordan Mason. And he's standing right there in the locker room. And he's 5'11", 225 pounds, and he's 25 years old, and he's healthy as hell. And he wants to get out there. And this year, you got to get him out there. Mitchell was moved aside by the injury. There's nothing standing between J.P. Mason and prosperity other than Kyle Shanahan just saying, get in there. So, yeah, if I got to go into this game and go, if this has got to be a J.P. Mason game with a smattering of McCaffrey, I'm fine. And guess what? I kind of think the better plan for the Niners might be to have Mason be your power guy, use Garendo, who's got great speed as well. Use Patrick Taylor, who I really like, by the way, Damon. I talk about a guy that's got major talent that nobody talked about all summer. This kid from Memphis, Patrick Taylor Jr., 6'1", about 220 pounds.
Look,
and he just runs like a bull.
It's maybe him. I
couldn't believe he made it.
It's one of the single biggest surprises on the final 53-man roster.
It was very surprising. He deserved it. Well, also Mitchell went down. I think Mitchell probably would have pushed him to the practice squad, but it doesn't matter. Patrick Taylor is a pretty good running back. He's not some slouch. So they got other guys. Not to mention, you have Debo and you have, Cowing and other receivers. So you want to put Debo in the backfield. You could put Debo in the backfield. So I don't know. I would much rather give me a combination of Mason, Taylor, Debo, Garendo, whatever you got to do. Give me a combo of the other guys and take a little bit of the foot off the gas pedal on the Christian McCaffrey sports car and just save him a little bit. That's what I would do. I mean, let's just say this. How many guys can have the usage that he had last year in back-to-back years and stay upright? Not many. So you got to ease that usage.
Especially a guy with injury concerns in his past, and he's had them. So you don't want to push it. He's way too valuable to be overextended in a game that when the season is over, it'll be looked back on and almost categorized as meaningless. This isn't a division game. It's not a conference game. It's a big game because all first big games against the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football are built to feel big. That's why we're getting it, because it's a monster. But it will not alter the season. A Christian McCaffrey injury would. So yes, be very careful with that guy, especially early on in the year. But it sounds like he is going to play, and that's always good for business. Looking at this one, Larry, and just, what is going to change the temperature of this game? Where should your eyeballs be early on, first quarter, to understand not the season that the Niners are going to have, but the game that they're in against the New York Jets on Monday night? Number one, to me, the first question that's going to dictate the pace of this game is straight up, is Aaron Rodgers still Aaron Rodgers? Or is Aaron Rodgers, but just Aaron Rodgers against the San Francisco 49ers, and they usually tend to eat his lunch somehow, some way, they always have? Or will this be a less than Aaron Rodgers, a first official sign of he's old now, doesn't quite still have it, Aaron Rodgers? And I can't wait to see what this guy looks like. I really don't know what to expect.
Well, and here's the other question. Did the Niners get Rodgers at the exact right time, or did the Niners get Rodgers at the exact wrong time?
Right.
And I asked that question because he's only played 4 snaps, since 2 seasons ago. So he, in a way, you could argue, hey, guess what? Niners got Rodgers at the right time. Flying cross country, week 1, didn't play at all in the preseason. No rhythm, no game rhythm to speak of. 3 new offensive linemen. Man, the Niners got lucky. They got Rodgers week 1. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is, man, look at old quarterbacks in the second half of the year. And maybe you wanted Rodgers late in the year because will he even be there? Would you even have Rodgers? Would it be Tyrod Taylor?
Right.
Will Rodgers be able to get through this year? What if this game was week 16 or week 17 instead of week 1? Then, yeah, he's got a rhythm and he's got a season under his belt, coming back. But it's also December and he's 40 and it's a long year and he's taking a lot of hits. So, I kind of think I'll take this spot. Because 3 new offensive linemen. I would expect one thing you're going to see up front, Damon, are the Niners playing some intricate stunting games just to try to make, the Tyron Smith, brand new left tackle, John Simpson, brand new left guard, Morgan Moses, brand new right tackle. Now Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith are both 33. But I saw their offensive line. It didn't look great in preseason. Vera Tucker's coming off an Achilles, so they've got some 3/5 of a new line. I say you stunt them and twist and turn and all kinds of games up front and make that line that hasn't played a lot of snaps together communicate together and get some angles going on Rodgers where he doesn't know where that free runner's coming from because there's so much action up front. Because
right.
To me, one of the fears I have in this game, Damon, is that Rodgers escapes contain, buys himself time. Then you're talking about one of the best, most accurate, strongest arm, deep arm throwers in the game with Garrett Wilson, Xavier Gibson, who's a home run hitter, Malachi Corley, who's really tough to tackle underneath, and his good buddy Lazard from Green Bay. So, I mean, not to mention Conklin, the tight end, is a decent guy. And Breece Hall, I think, had more receptions than CMC. So Rodgers must be contained, and I think you got to play games up front to make their O-line communicate. And if you do, I think Rodgers is going to turn it over. I think he'll throw the ball away and punt. He's going to make business decisions. He's not taking hits.
And you and I think, look, great quarterbacks, great players all have demeanors that seem to not turn around and accuse teammates in real time of failure or frustration. Aaron Rodgers has never been one of those guys. He will start yelling at his teammates walking to the huddle. I mean, he is a red ass out there and he doesn't like contact. He didn't like contact when he was 27. I doubt he likes it now. So,
right.
He
especially in recent years, Damon, like you mentioned the Niners owned him.
Frustrated. Getting him frustrated not only with, his physical restrictions or differences that there might be, but with his own teammates in front of him is a great way for it to start unraveling. It really is. So hopefully a little early penetration, a little early contact, a little Aaron Rodgers squinting at his offensive lineman in the huddle. This is all good signs, I think, for the 49ers. Another thing that I think is what are you keeping your eye on here? And look, honestly, if the 49ers offense plays up to its reputation and the New York Jets defense doesn't do something to make you rethink what the Niners offense might look like this year, but if the Niners offense comes out and is like, hey, man, we're still 28 points kind of rolling out of bed, we're approaching 30 in a lot of these games, if that's what it looks like, I just don't think that the Jets can keep up with that in this game. Any sort of high-scoring game, I think, plays right into the 49ers' hands. And it's got to be a low-scoring game for the Jets to win. Look, I got respect for Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard. I would say that Malachi Corley is the great unknown. Keep your eye on the great unknown. But there's nobody in that Jets offense outside of Breece Hall that even fits the description of scares me. Right? Right? And does Breece Hall really scare you?
Yes, he scares me. Because why? Because he's got sub 4.4 speed.
Right.
Okay, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And to me, the Niners versus the screen is a major part of this game. They got to be able to stop the screen. But I'm looking at the Jets' schedule, Damon, from last year. Just wanted to take a perusal. How many times did their defense last year allow teams to score in the 30s? Okay, let me just take a quick perusal here. Week 1, no. Week 2, no. Week 3, no. Week 4, no. Week 5, no. Week 6, no. They allowed 27 to the Chargers in November. Okay, that's that. They allowed 32 to Buffalo in late November. They allowed 34 to Miami in right around Thanksgiving. Other than that, so they had and they allowed 28 to Washington on Christmas Eve.
Hey, they're good. They're good.
So only 4 games. So that's what I'm saying. Only 4 games. And I was talking to Bob Wischusen, the voice of the Jets, yesterday, and he said to me that their whole game plan is keep it in the 20s, and they feel like if it can stay in the 20s, they can win. If it gets to the 30s, then they're probably going to lose that game. The other thing I thought was kind of interesting is I thought one of the big questions would be, they have Sauce Gardner, who's a tremendous corner. I mean, I think Gardner is a future Hall of Famer. I mean, he's incredible. And Sauce, he plays that left corner spot. And I asked him, will he travel with IU?
Yeah,
no, he doesn't. He won't. They don't. He said, according to Wischusen, he says that, the kind of the tenet of their D is that they like to play Sauce on the left side and DJ Reed on the right side. So, at least and Reed, I think, is the most underrated corner in all of pro football. The Niners drafted him. He's a name that kind of isn't really known to a lot of people, but he's cocky. He's tough. He's physical against the run. He's smart. The Niners took him in the 5th round in the 2018 draft. He's only 27. He's had a really good career. DJ Reed out of K-State. So that to me is it. I mean, if you want to get Ayuk on DJ Reed, if you're Shanahan, you can do that because Sauce is not going to travel. But the downside is Reed's good on the other side as well. So, but I expect I like the under in this game because I think the Niners, when you look at the Jets statistical profile, they were like top 5 in several categories. PFF thought they were the number 1 defense in pro football last year. They were top 5 pass D, but they're 25th last year against the run. So I think it's the game plan clearly is to run the ball. Then they added Javon Kinlaw up front, and Kinlaw's put on 30 pounds, if you can believe it. So I wonder about his conditioning in the 4th quarter, but also I don't think the Niners can move him. I don't think Brendel can move him out of there. So can the Niners run if they can't run in the middle and they've got to run to the edges exclusively? And then I think the Jets are going to, I don't know if it'll be a run game. It might be a short passing game, but I think it's going to be a heavy dose of Breece Hall.
What kind of snap count do you think Brandon Ayuk's going to be on?
Well, it's interesting because I saw him at practice the other day and he looks good, but man, you could tell he was huffing and puffing, and, you can take a month off and get your money. But as Herm Edwards said on the radio a few weeks ago, the grass knows when your cleats haven't been on it, which I thought was really deep and also kind of interesting.
That's great. That's
and
coach speak right there. That is
isn't that Herm right there? Is that classic Herm? The grass knows when those cleats haven't been on it. And so there's no fooling it, right? And I think you might want to, maybe not. I mean, he's 26 and he's in the prime of his career, and he held out and he got the big bag. And the theory is, hey, you know what? Money plays. It's week one. Roll him out there, but be smart. That's all I would say. Be smart with his reps.
Look, we get to do like 2 pregame shows, basically. Like this is the Friday before the weekend show, but we're going to do the same thing on Monday because it's a Monday night game, obviously. So, we can really take this thing apart and put it back together on Monday morning. But the facts and numbers around this game, Kyle Shanahan, do you realize that he needs to win this game to just be 500 in week one in his career? He is he's 3-4 as a head coach in week one with 7 seasons of the 49ers. So to get to 500, he needs a win. He's never lost to the Jets. He's 1-0 against the Jets, looking to go 2-0. Niners looking for their 1-0 start for the 9th time in their last 13 seasons. They haven't, and this is what's.
Can you say that last one again, Damon?
What the Niners are looking for a 1-0 start for the 9th time in their last 13 seasons.
So in the last 12 years, they're 8-4 in week one, is what you're saying.
But it's been very long since they've actually won a week one home game. Because normally Niners like open on the road an awful lot, don't you think?
Yeah, they really have. Well, you know why? Because the Niners made a request after year 1 or 2 of the opening of Levi's to the league schedule makers that they not be scheduled for daytime football at home in September because of the heat on the sun side of the field.
By the way,
so if you notice,
like to know how much your brand new multi-billion-dollar stadium sucks, it's a little too hot outside rule that you'd like. That's ridiculous. By the way, that's fucking.
And that
ridiculous.
has zero to do with the stadium. It has everything to do with the weather. But I mean, it's not a dome stadium; it's an outside stadium.
Right. It means you built the wrong stadium for the weather that you're going to be playing under the duration that you're going to be playing. And Santa Clara never snuck up on the Niners. They've been headquartered there for 30 years.
Anybody who is not familiar with Damon should know that Damon is on a pilgrimage to hate Levi Stadium. I don't hate Levi Stadium, but I also walked out of Candlestick for the last time as I was passed on my way to my car on the escalator by 2 raccoons. So I pretty much had it with the stick.
Invite in all the raccoons and say, yeah, we can play in every week of the year. We don't have a heat restriction. Anyways, look, the whole point is
hot. It's hot in California. It's hot in California.
They don't.
So it's a night game. It's a night game. So they're going to be able to play it at home.
The 49ers.
Otherwise,
the 49ers haven't won a week one home game since 2016. That's how long it's been. They haven't won.
So they've never won. Are you saying they've never won a week one home game at Levi's? Because wasn't that was Candlestick?
Right. So they had the first ever game at Levi's was against the Chicago Bears. Bears won that game. And then they started begging out of home games early. So maybe that was
2012. That was a Monday nighter though. That Bears game. That was a night game. That was the Kaepernick night game against the Bears.
Well, either way, the 49ers haven't won a week one home game since 2016 when they beat the Rams 28-0.
Right. Okay. And that was Kaepernick and Bolden. I think that was the big Bolden week one game. I think he had 200 yards receiving or some crazy number. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to get off to a hot start here, especially against, to bank some wins with the second half schedule looking as tough as it is.
Well, and that's the thing. There is no wiggle room. Like, I don't see how you get through this year with anything less than like a 4-1 start in your first 5 games. So it's really important that the 49ers come out and win. They are looking to tie the Steelers for the most wins ever on Monday Night Football for 53. They've been like pulling ahead of each other by a game or going back a game for a few seasons now. The 49ers all-time record on Monday Night Football is 52-31, including a 30-15 record as the home team on Monday Night Football.
52-31 on Monday Night Football. And what at home?
30-15.
30-15 at home. Wow. All those Montana era. I mean, they just won routinely in those Monday night games back in the day. Wow. That's pretty good. That's a pretty big record right there.
Yeah, it's not bad. They're very comfortable under the lights on Monday night, and hopefully they will be. Another just, okay, that's officially interesting. And he played last night. Patrick Mahomes is really in a class photo of one. He's a special guy. However, NFL Communications put this out this week. I thought this was pretty interesting as we continue to figure out and evaluate what is Brock Purdy, who is he in the league, in the hierarchy, and yada, yada. Brock Purdy needs a passer rating of 110 plus in just one of his first 4 starts of this season. So has to have a passer rating better than 110 in one of his first 4 starts to join Patrick Mahomes as the only quarterbacks in NFL history to reach that mark in 15 of his first 25 career starts. So, Patrick Mahomes basically entered the league in a way that made everybody drop what they were doing to take a look. Brock Purdy, in so many ways, is doing the same thing. Different styles, for sure, but the successes, the accuracy, it's hard to argue with it. So Purdy, he's had 110-plus quarterback rating in 14 of his 21 career starts, which is incredible. It really is. So,
It is. I mean, and he's impressed an awful lot of people. I mean, he really has. 17-4 as a starter. Here's the Hall of Famer Rod Woodson. Listen to Woodson here talk about Purdy. Here's Rod Woodson on the Eisen Show talking Brock. And by the way, the Eisen Show, if you're a Niner fan, they talk tons of Niners on this show.
The best team in the NFC is
the 49ers.
You still believe so?
Yes. I mean, getting Trent back was key. So you got your Ayuk, you got Debo there. I mean, I still think they're the best football team. They got the best running back in the National Football League. I love the way the game was called on the offensive side of it. Defensively, he's got to see what type of defense they have this year, but I just think they're the best overall team in the NFC.
You don't think the Eagles with their coordinator switch might have fixed the way that they collapsed despite Kelsey and Cox, 2 guys right in the middle of those trenches being gone, that Saquon can plus them up and that the new coordinators can help out?
I love Saquon. I think he's up there, one of the best backs in the league. I got to see what they do on defense. I got to see how they unfold on offense. I know there's some type of rift they say that's between the quarterback and the head coach. So is it there? Is it not there? I like to see, can they rebound? Defensively, they do have some players. That team didn't look like that team last year. I know they did at the beginning of the year, and then they just kind of fell off the cliff. But can they come back and play the whole way through? I still think, with that being said, I still think the 49ers are the best overall team in the NFC.
What about the Lions, who came awful close?
I like the Lions. I do. I like the Lions. I still believe, even though they kind of came through it and kind of surprised us and how good they were throughout the whole year, not just in spurts. I'm still a fan of what the 49ers put on the field consistently. And I'm keep saying that because a lot of people, are they on the Brock Purdy bandwagon or are they not? I think the kid is a little player. I think he's a player. When he's healthy, when he's playing, they play good football. Like I said, they got the best running back in the league. You got a good tight end. You got 2 good receivers. You got a solid offensive line. Need a little inconsistent, but a solid offensive line. Having Trent come back is going to be key. Defensively, they've been solid for years. So for me, there's no question marks. There's more question marks with Detroit, Philly, Atlanta, any other of the good teams, Tampa, any other good team.
The best team.
There you go. So he's a believer in Purdy.
Look, that's a Hall of Fame player who has
Rod
spent
Woodson. He lives here, by the way. He lives in Pleasanton.
His entire life has been spent watching tape of offensive players. His entire life, years of his life, literally years of his life can be measured in, I'm just watching tape on offensive players. So his eyes knows what he's looking at. He knows what he's looking at. And he sees what I think you and I see, what a lot of people, officially see, that this is a team that certainly has come up short in the Super Bowl, but everything other than that is pretty fucking state of the art. It really is.
Well, I mean, Kyle Shanahan hasn't climbed to the top of the mountain. John Lynch hasn't climbed to the top of the mountain as a GM. They haven't done it yet. They still need to do it. the standards are the standards, and they're not going to be lowered. And they're not asking for them to be lowered. So if you're a Niner fan going, hey, man, I've enjoyed a lot of this success, but it's time to get it done. I'm right there with you, shaking my head, saying absolutely. But if you're going to say they haven't gotten it done and that's why they need to be replaced, then you've lost me, because I don't believe I'm a little older than you guys, and I remember the Yorks chasing out Mariucci after some really good seasons of Niner football where they didn't win the Super Bowl, and then that went down an entire Dennis Erickson nightmare path, and it got way worse before it got better, and it took them a decade to find their way back, and they didn't find their way back until they hired Jim Harbaugh years and years later, multiple regimes later. Mike Nolan was there, Mike Singletary was there. So all I'm saying is, if you want to hold Kyle and John's feet to the fire and say they haven't done it yet, and you want to scream it to the heavens, go for it. But if you're going to get to that next level of these are bad people or these people need to go, I'm not there.
People who know what they're doing and are very good at what they do lose NFL games every weekend. This is a league that you don't get to this league without knowing what you're doing, and then the league eats itself alive. And for the 49ers to be doing most of the eating rather than getting eaten means it's being run right and it's working. You haven't had that official best meal of the year, and that does suck. And both of us said Kyle Shanahan cannot leave Las Vegas without the Lombardi Trophy. Well, he did. That doesn't mean that Kyle now needs to be pushed off the airplane before you get back to SFO. And people who covered the league like that are overreactionary. I just had Cam Inman on. I know you just had him on soon. We were talking about his book, The Franchise. It's fabulous. And we talked about Mariucci. Mariucci was fired because he was chasing ghosts that he couldn't catch. He wasn't fired because he was bad. He wasn't fired because he didn't have a good team. He wasn't fired because he wasn't winning games. He was fired because Bill Walsh would have won a Super Bowl by now. And that's why he was let go, basically. He was let go because he was being measured not by what he is actually doing, but by the history of the 49ers, which, again, was suffocating at that point. You were still so close to it.
Well, it was, once again, let's get rid of very good in the pursuit of great,
right?
But you don't have a plan to be great. It's once again, I'm okay. It's not like my name's Larry Shanahan. I'm not, Larry Lynch. I'm not related to these guys. If you can make a really compelling argument that they should go, I'm willing to listen. And if you have somebody that you think is better, I'm willing to listen. I just don't believe anybody's got anybody better. I'm not saying that they can't do better than Lynch and they can't do better than Kyle, but it would be very, 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 very difficult. To me, to start fresh after you're so far down this road, would Andy Reid have done in Philly what he's doing right now in Kansas City had he stayed? And I think the question is, if he had the quarterback, I think he would have done what he's doing. And I think if Shanahan has the quarterback, I think he'll get it done. I think he does. I think give him a couple years. I think these two guys, I think Shanahan's the right coach. I think Purdy's the right quarterback. I do believe that they will get it done together. I do.
Well, and this is
do you, Damon? Because I'm not sure. We haven't talked about it.
No, I think we've talked about it incessantly. Yes, I believe that Brock Purdy,
but specifically that.
Yes, I believe Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan can win a Super Bowl together. I think they are both Super Bowl quality caliber talents, and together they can figure this out. I really think it's going to happen. I hope it happens this year, because if it doesn't, then you got to hit that reset button sort of on the franchises. It now needs to be built around Brock Purdy, not with including Brock Purdy. That is going to change things, and maybe the chemistry changes on everyone's opinion at that time. But he won't even be 25. He's still incredibly young. Shanahan, even though he's aging like a president and going as gray as I am in real time, he is still a young man, all things considered, in this coaching game. and he's already in his 8th year doing it. They're really good. They're really good. Again, I wish. So you grew up rooting for the San Francisco 49ers. Like when they win the Super Bowl, I expect you to jump and be happy and maybe even cry a little. I'll be happy for my YouTube channel. I'll be happy for my kids and my family and my wife. I did not grow up a 49er fan. I have just come out here and covered this team. And what I've seen over the last 20 years went from painfully incompetent to the only criticism is they haven't won a Super Bowl. So I really wanted them to win the Super Bowl last year just so we could move beyond that talking point. Just what will his critics say when he's holding the Lombardi trophy now?
He can't go back to back.
Right. They'll always find a reason to tell you why this guy is falling.
He ain't going back to back. There'll be something. There'll be something.
They're not going to win 3 in a row. Well, no one ever has. Yeah, well, they won't either. So, there is the impossible to please.
The angst side of the fan base will have to find a new theme if they win the Super Bowl. Because they won't. I would say right now, if you walk down the street, walked up to 100 Niner fans, first of all, you would find 100 Niner fans on the street. Good luck finding 100 Giants fans on the street.
Good luck finding 100 Giants fans at a Giants game.
But I mean, you talk to 100 Niner fans, they would all say, they would all talk about the Niners, and they would not talk about Joe, Steve, Ronnie, Jerry, Brent, Ricky, none of them. They're talking about this Ricky and Trent and CMC. So they're engaged in the present team, not the past. They're passionate as hell about seeing the team win. If they're 30 or younger, they've never seen the team win. And if they're like our age, they have seen the team win. And they understand it's cyclical, and they like this, this regime, and believe that they will get it done. I would say that's what you see for the most part. I don't see that many. I don't hear the hue and cry except when from the chat here on YouTube of Shanahan's got to go. Lynch has got to go. I don't hear that. I don't hear it at the stadium. I don't hear it from fans. I hear people who say, dude, it's time for us to win the Super Bowl. But I don't hear this. That's a distinctly different refrain than get rid of the regime.
Look, they wouldn't say it on air during the interview, but you would then bump into the player that you had on during the week on the field at Candlestick, and now you'd really get to know what they thought about Mike Singletary or Jimmy Ray or Mike Nolan or hey, we're trying to put a brave face on this, but man, I don't know. And this guy, I don't know. Not one conversation has started with a man, this guy, I don't know, when it comes to John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan. Not one with a former player, somebody who actually understands the league because they've lived in it, not just rooted for it. So, the people who understand football understand how set up that the 49ers are. The people. And
by the way, for people who Damon and I said, it'll be good for our YouTube channels if the Niners win, and what we really mean is, because nobody knows if they're going to win at all. I mean, did they win last year? Technically not, right? Because they didn't win the Super Bowl, but they did go to the playoffs. To me, that's what I'm about. For the channel, I'm all about the playoffs. The Niners are minus 450 to make the playoffs. They're plus 325 to miss the playoffs. The odds imply that they have an 81.8% chance of making the playoffs going into the season. So that's pretty damn good, Damon. Almost 82% chance. They do face the 15th most difficult schedule in the NFL. They play the Rams twice in addition to that, and they made the playoffs.
By the way,
they also play 6 other playoff teams.
Larry, I don't mean to interrupt you. What do those 14 harder than 49er schedules look like? I mean, what are those monsters? Are they playing like some intergalactic team I haven't heard about? Like the fact that the 49ers are coming in as the 15th hardest schedule. I mean, look at that thing with your own 2 eyes and tell me that's number 15. Good God. The
2 against Arizona. I mean, take the Steelers division. They don't have a divisional opponent that's Arizona. You know what I mean? So that's I would imagine you're right though. I'd love to see who's got the toughest schedule and what it exactly looks like. But I would imagine it's probably like Bengals, Ravens, or Steelers or Browns have the toughest schedule. But the Niners play the Rams twice. They went to the playoffs. Their other playoff teams, they played Kansas City, Dallas, Green Bay, Buffalo, Miami, and Detroit. So they it's a barn burner on the back end. So you want to be able to bank some September and October wins if at all possible. This on paper, even though it's Rodgers, even though they're a good defense, this is a very winnable football game for the Niners.
It is. It is a winnable game, and they need to bank it in the win column. And then you start talking about, well, the odds say. Look, the odds don't say. The odds scream the 49ers are not going back to the Super Bowl. It's hard to do what they're trying to do. Only 6 teams have ever managed to return to the Super Bowl the year after they lost it. And it's only happened once since the turn of the century. Only the loss to the Philly Special Eagles Patriots, who then came back to beat the Los Angeles Rams. And again, that's Belichick and Brady at the peak of their powers. Only that team was able to lose a Super Bowl, return to, and win a Super Bowl this century. So the 49ers are trying to do something that is incredibly rare and incredibly difficult, but I'd still give them a pretty good shooter's chance of doing it.
Yeah.
Because I think they're that good. If they can stay healthy. I mean, you can put this in front of every team, but if the 49ers stay healthy, should be a monster season for them. Really should be.
Fuja Siminian 13 says, Larry, did you MC the fantasy football draft? I did get invited to go to Southern California to MC a football draft, but you know what? I got so busy that I didn't go to Riverside. So a guy in Riverside wanted to pay me like $1,000 to go MC his fantasy football draft. And I was like, I would do it, but then the schedule didn't work out.
Larry, we talked about this at the Dubliner for Plus Mania, and you came in and you're like, you were debating, you were weighing the math on this whole thing. You're like, I think, the good guy. I like the guy who's asked me to come on down. I trust him. Somebody in the back is like, you need to bring security with you, Larry. And you have no idea what you're walking.
You're going to wind up in a dungeon.
It's a really busy, it's a busy time of the year if you cover the NFL to go and take a one-off trip to host a fantasy football thing. But I would have loved to have seen you done it, like all Guy Smiley or just totally ripping the picks as they come in. That's a terrible pick, Mike. Coming up next. I didn't think you were going to go do it. And you didn't.
It wasn't the security factor. It was really just the schedule because I had my son's high school football. By the way, congratulations to Northgate last night. They beat Camp Olindo, and they destroyed Camp Olindo. So Northgate freshmen owned Camp Olindo in Walnut Creek last night.
Suck it, Camp Olindo. You made Wake Up. You don't want to make it like that. By the way, welcome to Wake Up. Like and subscribe. Both channels we're co-streaming all season long here. Thanks to Sam's Chowder House for being our sponsor. Larry, why don't you hit him with a little Chipino footage? Because I know you got to get rolling because you got a hit coming up. But
I'm trying to confirm if I'm doing this hit or not. So right now I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see here. We may jump off in a minute. If not, we'll keep it rolling for a few minutes.
Okay. Look at that lobster roll. Look at the paella.
Oh, the paella looks
there.
Really
it is.
Scrumptious.
There's the Chipino. Look at
There's
that
the star.
Seafood explosion right there. And
the Chipino at Sam's is magic, by the way. I mean, you're talking about mussels, prawns, scallops.
Did you know that is a true San Franciscan invention, by the way? That Chipino, sourdough bread, I don't believe was invented in San Francisco. It was perfected in San Francisco. But Chipino, literally invented by fishermen coming back to the wharf after a day casting their nets. They would pick out, the what they were keeping for themselves, and they would just throw it all in a big boiling pot. And that's why there's all that different type of seafood in a Chipino, because it was the throw it in there and we're all going to kind of eat the sea's leftovers is basically what Chipino was. So
And it's just, I mean, I love all seafood. So the crab legs, the mussels, the scallops, I mean, it's all fantastic. But to smell the thing in the restaurant coming together, and then it's just, they give you the bib and they bring it out, and you got the crab legs, and you're just digging into this seafood pot of just gloriousness. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
I'm a fan of the bib too. I've always liked, a lot of people are like, I don't need a bib. No, if you're going to offer me a bib at a restaurant, I want it. Give me the
Exactly.
bib. Absolutely.
I mean, do you, have you in college, when I was in college, we used to have I was in a fraternity. We used to have a fundraiser every year. It was a crab feed. Have you ever been to a crab feed?
I've been to many crab feeds. The Guardian put on
okay.
a famous crab feed. I've been to the San Francisco Yacht Club crab feed. Thank you very much.
Oh, so you've been to crab feeds. So
oh yeah, they're awesome.
It's the best. You pay like $50 and you can get chilled crab, and they bring out the cocktail sauce and the butter and the lemon, and you're just sitting there and drinking wine and eating cracked crab, and it's the best. It's absolutely the best.
The dead shell plate that are all over the table at the end of it. You got mountains of just empty crab legs and bodies and whatnot. What I love about the crab, the crab fest and the feast is that you go into the body of the crab, right? Because everyone goes after the legs and the big chunky part. You go after the body. That's where all the sweet meat is. And then you just start throughout the night, you just start collecting it and shredding it and put it in your bowl of butter. And then at the end of the night, you basically have like, it's not Cheerios and milk. It's crab meat in butter, and you just eat it like cereal at the end of the, like, that's how your crab feed ends. That's how I end my crab feed anyways.
Oh man. So we used to go when I was at Sac State, and we have to sell tickets to this thing. And I'd walk through the neighborhood, talking in over by Sac State, and all the blue hairs, and hey, would you like to go to our crab feed? And you would be shocked how many tickets. I mean, I think we might have sold like 400 tickets to this thing. We made thousands of dollars on this crab feed. It was absolutely, and it's a great time. So a lot of churches do them for fundraisers. And the tickets are not cheap, right? I mean, it usually costs
neither is crab. I mean, you got to wait for Dungeness crab season to open, and that market price can change.
Yeah, it's all you can eat. There's booze usually involved, wine and that kind of thing.
Alaskan king crabs are the best. Look, Alaskan king crabs are delicious, but I'm going Dungeness. I'm a Dungeness guy.
Yeah. Have you ever gone out? You should, I'll tell you, that's an experience too. I haven't done it for decades, but as a kid, we went out on the crab boats one time, and watched them, go out in the ocean and grab these crabs and bring them all back. I mean, it's a pretty cool experience. So I don't know if they offer that anywhere right now, but if you can, go do it, because you'll definitely find it cool.
I went through a good 2-3 year phase where my favorite, just put it on, don't think about it, just watch it TV show to go to, was Deadliest Catch. I could watch those guys pull up crab pots in the Bering Straits and risk the weather and all the conditions and that brutally hard work and the swinging of 1,000-pound, freaking crab pots, and everything on that sea is trying to kill you, your own boat included. And they're just out there fishing for crab. I love that show.
And they boil those crabs alive. Sometimes they'll crawl out of the bowl.
Yeah,
they'll crawl out of the bowl in the middle of the boil.
I loved that show. Everyone's Worth My Nightmare. I enjoyed that show too. It was a great show. Freaking loved that show. Deadliest Catch. When it came out, Phil and Sig. Yeah, here he goes. Shush. No, sorry. I put a shush. Says Damon. Phil and Sig. Yeah. What was it? The Maria, the Cornelia Maria or something like that. All the naming of the boats. Fantastic. I'm pretty sure the show.
Capital Boys is charter boats, Bodega Bay. That would be kind of a cool thing. That would be a cool thing. Charter a boat in Bodega Bay and go out there and do they get crabs out of the bay? I don't know.
Dusty Gold, Ozempic to lose those pounds. Yeah, seriously, they should serve it at the end of the crab feast. Here's your
Must be trouble not fishing. They drop pots, drive around, pick them up. Yeah, no, I know that's not fishing. But
Larry,
still,
that's the
it's still
sponsor
fun.
we need. We need like Wegovy or Ozempic, and we need we should have a who can lose the most weight in a football season. Two of us total underwear models.
And then we could do that, and we could and then we could talk about take this drug, but watch out if your eyes bleed. That's a bad sign.
Ask your doctor. Can you imagine the two of us ask your doctor about Chipino?
Your eyes are bulging out and they're starting to bleed. Probably no longer take the drug. But now,
are we going to 10:30? Have you got a bolt? What's your deal?
Yeah, I confused my 10 a.m. hit today with the fact that my Niners show on Saturday on KMBR starts at 10 a.m. So I'm free.
Okay, good. Well, then we should.
At least I'm free until 10:30. Around 10:45, the great Chase Senior joins me on the Krueger show for a little breakdown.
We should invite Chase back to another wake up. I had a good time with him the time that he stopped on by
great.
the show.
Yeah, I mean, Chase, ripped London Breed, and all these people went after him and this and that for the Ricky Pearsall thing. And he is covering the team from Texas, so he's not here. But I think overall, Chat Sports does a pretty nice job of covering the Niners, and I think Chase does a pretty nice job overall. There were an awful lot of people that were mad at him for basically jumping in and kind of going political on the Pearsall thing, which, as we all know, was there.
Here's the deal.
Right there, teetering on sports and politics, and it's
right.
It was a tough thing. I tried to avoid it because I don't like to get political in this forum because that's just not what I chose this forum for. But
how about this? I think the right way to say it is San Francisco, without a doubt, has been an incubator of ideas that probably haven't worked the way that they were intended. And because of that, a lot of people think that there is an environment that is now, cataclysmically dangerous to you and me in San Francisco. The chances are, if you're not wearing a Rolex, you're going to be just fine in San Francisco, to be totally honest with you. And a random act of violence, act of violence can happen anywhere. I guess my whole point was, can Chase Senior name a single other mayor in the 19 American cities that are actually measurably more dangerous than San Francisco? And the answer is no, of course he can't, because the San Francisco's mayor just happens to be a political talking point on a certain network all the time.
But she made herself. She made herself that. Yes. Nobody made her take the stances she took. She made herself that. So she's a lightning rod, and she has to answer for it.
And San Francisco does have to get harder and tougher on crime. San Francisco does need to rethink its policies for sure on a lot of things. But what happened to Ricky Pearsall could happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime. It's never the city's fault that you're being mugged. It's the mugger's fault. So it's
here's, once again, the mayor's first statement at the scene of the crime to the TV news, because I was watching it, was unbelievably insensitive. Damon, if you got shot and we're doing a live stream and you got shot and they ask me what I think, and I look at the camera and say, yeah, he got shot, but it's rare. It's really rare. I don't care. That's insensitive to your wife, your kids, to your family. That was insensitive. So don't everybody use this, both sides, for their political football, and continue to. I actually thought it would be used even more than it's been used. It's actually kind of died down. But don't go political. Don't. And she went heavy political. She's like, this is a rarity. This never happens. But the stats, that's bullshit, because there's all kinds of random street crime in San Francisco. I don't even live there. I just work there. And I've been subject to multiple street crimes myself. So, it's just don't tell me that, and don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. Don't try to
handle it the wrong way.
Political,
the wrong way. So let's just look at this from a Ricky Pearsall standpoint, because that's not politics. I just want to look at it from his standpoint. And it is tragic and amazing that this guy caught a bullet before he caught a pass. I mean, is there anyone in the history of football who's had to start a career quite like that? I really don't know. I don't think there is. I don't know about it anyways.
Did you hear what Shanahan said? The doctor said? They said that it was like only 2 out of every 100 people that suffer that kind of a bullet wound survive. 2 out of 100. So he's very fortunate.
What I can't believe is that there, it says Ricky Pearsall's been shot in the chest. I'm looking at the footage, and there he is walking to the ambulance. Like, who walks to their own ambulance when they get shot in the chest? They're usually on the gurney being loaded in. This guy is certainly tougher than the non-contact jersey jokes that we have been telling about him since he started practicing in training camp. Look, I just truly hope that this kid mentally recovers from this moment. I'm imagining if you get jacked and shot, that comes with a nightmare. Like that, there's just going to be a nightmare in there somewhere, right? There's going to be a moment where you wake up at night going, and hopefully that's it. Hopefully this doesn't change who he is, the way he goes about society, the way he goes about dealing with people in the public or fearing for his own safety anywhere. Hopefully his life and his mental approach to life is unaffected by this. What he went through is all day and night long the walking definition of trauma and traumatic.
What do you think of this one from Sean Turner? Do you like that idea?
Pearsall got to lead the Boombox Crew team. Oh, absolutely. And he's got to come out.
I love that idea, Sean. I love that idea.
He's got to come out to what's the 50 Cent song about getting shot, one man or something? You got to come out to that. You got to come out.
I don't know.
To something hard. Yes, Ricky.
Seriously,
Ricky should absolutely lead the team if he is up to do it. And look, they're talking
that would be
about
cool
him.
too.
He was saying that I would play this week if I could. I mean, that guy right
Dude,
there got some dog in him.
You know what? I stood next to him at practice, like about 15 feet away, 2 days ago or yesterday, or whatever it was.
There it is. Thank you very much. This is the song. He should come out to 50 Cent's Many Men, and that should be the song that he takes to lead the team out onto the field with. Absolutely.
That would be sweet. That would be sweet. But he was standing there at practice yesterday, and it's like you can see, man, he's chomping at the bit. He wants to get back. He wants to play. Lynch has maintained a couple times that this guy's going to be a fantastic player. Now, they're doubling down, tripling down, saying, hey, he's a better player than we even thought on the night that we drafted him. So when you hear, and a lot of people are saying, well, what do you expect Lynch to say? No, you guys don't understand. He wouldn't say that because eventually, if this guy were, a dog with fleas, he would never say, oh, yeah, wait until you see this guy, because that's just going to put more attention on his failed draft choice. So, yeah, it's easy to say, well, anytime anybody says anything, well, what do you expect them to say? Okay. But that's a good comeback. But in this case, I think there's something there. Not only that I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. This guy does create a lot of separation. I think that Ricky Pearsall is going to be not an every down kind of monster, but I think he's going to be a continuity piece that, like, you can't stop. Like Purdy to Pearsall, it's coming, and you still have a hard time stopping it. I think he's going to be that kind of a receiver.
The fact that he is going to be playing it all this year says an awful lot about him. And there's what John Lynch is saying. He's definitely going to be playing this year. He will probably come back in week 5 against, if he's already talking like I could play right now, he probably comes back for that Arizona game and is out there for the first time wearing a 49er uniform in that game. Now, take all the time you need, Ricky. You got more grace given to you than any player could possibly have at the beginning of his career. And the reception that he is going to get from 49er fans when he gets introduced for the first time should be very memorable. I'll tell you, I know that there's a lot of looking at how did this happen? What'd you say? 2 out of 100 survived this. I wonder what that ratio would be if all of those 100 were professional athletes. Professional athletes are not like us. Professional athletes have bodies that are tuned in the way that, Italian sports cars are. And if you are going to go through anything, from a sickness standpoint or physical trauma or a stroke or whatever, be shot, break your leg, skiing accident, it doesn't matter. If you're a professional athlete, you probably got a better chance of going through it with less rust on you than anyone else just randomly selected from society. So, you can call it thank God, thank his doctors, thank the universe, thank, the zodiac signs. Like, I'm ruling nothing out. For you to be shot in the chest and it miss all of your vital organs and you're back home a day later, something in the cosmos was looking out for you that day. But probably more than anything else is his own finely tuned body that is going to allow him to just recover from this. I mean, he got shot, Larry, he got shot the way that like Bruce Willis gets shot in Die Hard, where there's a scene in the movie where they're like, oh man, you just got shot. And they're like, yeah, don't worry. The bullet went clean through. And then they just keep on moving with the plot of the movie. Like this, your main character being shot in the last scene, bullet came right out. Don't worry about it. Keep the movie going. I mean, this is like the way people get shot in Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Yeah. Just tie it up. I'll keep going. I mean, it's incredible. He wiped it off basically like a kid playing G.I. Joe and says, I'm still playing. It's incredible. It's incredible.
He's very lucky. He's very lucky. He's very lucky. I mean, it could have hit his lungs, would have killed him. Could have hit his heart, would have killed him. Could have hit his, spine, would have paralyzed him, maybe killed him. I mean, he's very, very lucky. Holland Tracy, can you leave that Holland Tracy up there?
No, I didn't see it. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I see. Holland Tracy had this comment here that I wanted to address. I get this one a lot. Oh, you're questioning his toughness still, Larry? I never questioned his toughness. I'm questioning his durability, and there's a big difference. Yeah, plenty of toughness. It's about durability. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the most big-bodied guy, and he plays in the middle of the field. And everybody who's comparing him at the draft to, oh, he's Julian Edelman. Well, I've met Julian Edelman. I've talked to Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman's one of the toughest guys who's ever played in the NFL. He's not very big. He's not very fast. He's not very anything. He's just tough. So to say, do I question his toughness? I never questioned his toughness. I question his durability. If CJ Gardner-Johnson steps up in the middle and pops him, does he get up? Does he continue to play in the same way in the middle of the field and run those passes and run across the middle of the field with conviction? That's what I question, is whether or not he can take those hits in the middle and still play that kind of ball in the middle of the field, because that's where this guy lives. That's where that's the kind of game he's going to have.
And that's where the 49ers offense operates.
Yeah, they're going to throw it to him in the middle of the field, and he's going to take big-time hits. And the question is, what's the impact of those hits? And we did, he couldn't get on the field all summer. First it was a hamstring, then it was the shoulder. He was in the blue jersey. We barely saw him. And, the thing about it that's a little concerning is that the amount of physical challenge that he's going to have going forward is so much greater than what he's endured thus far. I'm just talking football. I'm nothing about the bullet and the wound and that whole thing, but just like he's barely been hit at all this summer, and he's been in the blue jersey all summer.
Right
now, he's going to go out of the blue jersey, take hits every week, and be fine. I don't know.
He got to a non-contact jersey without contact. That was reason for concern. It's
just not the biggest guy. He didn't have huge numbers at Florida. I mean, I looked. I mean, he's got great ball skills. He's got great route running ability. He's got really good hands, but he didn't have great numbers. So I'm a numbers guy. You put it on, you produce. To me, that says everything. He's got the traits. We got to see the production. The production's not overwhelming considering, and do you blame the offense? You can. Do you blame the quarterbacks? You could. But we're going to find out because now he's in the NFL in an offense that we know works with a quarterback that we know plays well. So I do question the durability long term. Absolutely.
Well, look, we saw a rookie wide receiver affect the game last night at Arrowhead.
Yeah, he looked good. Xavier Worthy.
Hopefully Malachi Corley, a rookie wide receiver, won't be affecting Monday Night Football very much. And Ricky Pearsall will eventually get his shot. But the rookie receiver I kind of want to end today's show with, Larry, is Jacob Cowing, because I think this guy could really just give Kyle Shanahan another few pages of his playbook to sort of go through. You know, there was the playbook that Shanahan had with Jimmy Garoppolo, and it was like this thin. Okay, this is what Jimmy could do. And then Brock Purdy comes in, and now the playbook goes to here. And now Christian McCaffrey's added to the team. Now the playbook's like this. You know, if Cowing can just make it grow a little bit more, because now we get more deep shot plays, we get to get more aggressive. It's just going to open things up. I've always felt like 80% of everything that Kyle does is in like this 12-yard radius. You know, it's like 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage in a screen game, some razzle dazzle back there, and 8 yards down the field, you know, just looking to catch, turn it upfield and get your yards after the catch. It all happens in a tight amount of space. For Kyle to really be able to have a player that can help him stretch the field, it would just change things. It would change things. It's a geometry that he's been looking for and has really not found yet. Danny Gray maybe was supposed to. You know, there's been other guys who've come in and represented a little bit of a deep threat, and just representing a deep threat makes the offense open to actually get one, to actually have one. And if this kid can actually become one, it's just going to help them get through their year easier. It really will.
You know, Cowing is a really interesting kid too. I talked to him at his locker a couple days ago about his teammate McMillan, who had 300 yards in the Arizona's game, and that kid's going to go in the top 10 in next year's draft. Tatorie McMillan, I believe his name is. But Cowing is just he's really interesting. He's small, but he's fast. He can separate vertically, and there's going to be a lot of space on the field, I think, created by him. So I love Cowing. Yeah. I think Cowing in some ways adds an element that even Pearsall doesn't, which is the space creating element. So I'm really, really excited
here is saying, you know, he can be a decoy deep threat too. I guess my whole point is, like, what happens if you can actually replace the decoy with a legitimate target? Like, that's what I hope Jacob Cowing is. That's what I hope he turns into. Not a decoy, but a guy who can really run past you, catch a ball, and keep running. That is the player the 49ers have been looking for and been missing out on for a few years in a row here. So he's special. He's a special player. And you saw what's really exciting about Cowing is we've really only seen 2 modes from him this summer. He came out the first day, he looked awesome. Then he pulled the hammy, then he was gone for a week. Then he came back for 2 days and he didn't look very good. And I was like, oh man, this guy, I don't know. And then it was like he was just shaking off the rust and just trying to get back to full speed. Once he got back to full speed, he's just dominating. I mean, he's dominating. And when he drops the ball, he's super hard on himself. You can tell he's got, you know, more vertical than like the Ronnie Bells, but he still has great ball skills like that. So he's exciting. He's really exciting. He's going to be a punt returner to start off. If being limited in practice means Garendo isn't available Monday night, who's returning that first hybrid kickoff of the season for the Niners? That's a good question. I'm not really sure who's ultimately going to be their return guy. You know, I think the plan is Cowing is the punt returner and Garendo is the kick returner. I think what you'll see is Ronnie Bell if Garendo can't be the kick returner. I mean, there'll be 2 guys, but Ronnie Bell will be one of them for sure. I think you're probably right. Probably right about that. You know, maybe Ronnie Bell and Debo, maybe Ronnie Bell and not CMC, but Juice.
Maybe Ronnie Bell and Garendo if Garendo's healthy. That would be my guess.
Well, Trent Taylor's not being brought up from the practice squad to just
not for that.
Right? Okay.
Right, yeah. Not for that. But yeah, eventually, I mean, you have Trent Taylor still there. You can go to him at any point. Oh, by the way, not that anybody cares about this but me, but as somebody who just went to practice, Terrace Marshall looks really good to me. I can't believe that Carolina got rid of Terrace Marshall. He's 24. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, huge hands, 4.37 speed. He's 24. 24. They've had bad offenses, bad coaches, three different head coaches. He hasn't had a solid quarterback, though he did speak highly of Bryce Young. But Bryce was a rookie last year.
Look at it this way. That team is bad enough to where if he was still talented enough to be on that team, he would be there, right? Like his career hasn't been stunted just by the fact that the Panthers have been a mess. Let's see whether or not a change of scenery does right by him. But Carolina is in no position to be cutting anyone who can catch more than a cold. So this kid's hands.
No, I know. No, his hands are great. His hands are great. I'm telling you.
Well, if he's got great hands and great speed, why is he a 49er?
I asked John Lynch this exact same question. You know what John said? I don't know what's going on in Carolina. That's what he said.
Okay, so if you're telling me that it's an incompetence win for the Niners, like,
well, I mean, let's just say this. Let's just say this, Damon. You know that the Seattle Seahawks did not draft Marshawn Lynch. He went to Buffalo.
Yes.
He wasn't any good in Buffalo. They traded him to Seattle. So it does happen from time to time.
Oh,
a guy winds up in the wrong offense.
Another opportunity. Always.
Some people need a change of scenery. Sometimes. Steve Young was bad in Tampa. He was great with the Niners. He was a Hall of Famer with the Niners. He was not good in Tampa. And all I'm saying is sometimes, and there's other examples we could find as well if we want to look around. There are guys who they go one spot, it doesn't work. Jim Plunkett, you go way back, drafted by the Patriots, was with the Niners, wasn't good with New England, wasn't good with the Niners, goes to the Raiders and leads them to multiple Super Bowls and is like a Super Bowl MVP. And the guy went to multiple Super Bowls. So I'm just saying, it's like sometimes you need a change of scenery. This guy has got size. He's got ball skills. He's got straight line speed, and he's not really had any kind of offensive continuity. He's never been in a good offense. He's had 3 head coaches in like 4 years. He's only 24. He's never had a major injury. He runs 4.37. I think you put him on this practice squad. Let him get comfortable. Let him get his feet wet. Let him learn the offense. Bust him out. Once upon a time, this guy was a 5-star recruit who was this was the guy that the LSU fans were excited about. It wasn't Jamar Chase. It wasn't Justin Jefferson. It was this guy, Terrace Marshall. So he hasn't lost it. He's got a great attitude about being here. All I'm saying is I saw him run around at practice and my mouth dropped. I was like, oh my God, this guy can move. He's absolutely good.
To go from the Carolina Panthers to the 49ers, it's got to feel like you just got paroled out of prison, right? I mean, like all of a sudden, you're looking at
new lease on life.
Andy Dufresne is sanding that boat right on the beach in Zihuatanejo, and you're like, I'm out of prison. Here we go. Me and Andy can now hang out.
It's just, I hate to say it, he got caught up in a numbers game. Sometimes you go in the offseason and you're like, hey, we need to make a move. Okay, we're going to go bring in Adam Thielen. Okay, so they brought in Adam Thielen. He takes 1 wide receiver spot. They drafted Xavier Legette in the first round. He gets another wide receiver spot. They drafted Jonathan Mingo last year in the 2nd round, so he gets a wide receiver spot. That's 3. And then Deontay Johnson, they signed from Pittsburgh, so he gets a wide receiver spot. So they really only had, one more, spot, and I'm sure it was designated for a guy like David Moore from East Carolina because he's got some special teams ability. and Terrace Marshall's not a special teamer per se. He just got caught up in a numbers game. I'm telling you, wait until you see Terrace Marshall on the field once he knows the offense. I think people are going to be very surprised. Very surprised.
Okay. By the way, here's another way to sum it all up. Very well here by 49ers Eddie. Carolina traded Christian McCaffrey. They're not a top organization. That is correct. That is correct. Larry, I see you got a couple of starred chats. What do you got there?
Well, Dusty Gold says, like Larry at KMBR, Larry was good there, but busted out with YouTube. Thank you. We've got this one. Let's see. We got a couple here. One we already played, which was this one. Larry, did you MC the fantasy football draft? No, I did not. And then we have this one from the same guy. He says, what do you think of the Matt Chapman extension? I hate it. I understand it, but I hate it. 6 years? How about 3? How about 3?
Right.
You got no trade. What?
You got to keep,
Why are you giving
him to his age 37 season?
Yeah, I understand it because they need to attract other free agents. And it's funny, we've been talking there. So much has been talked about the city of San Francisco in relation to this Pearsall thing, but a lot of talk was connected to the city of San Francisco when Buster Posey came out and shared what he was hearing from baseball players, agents, and wives, which is that they weren't in a real rush to live in San Francisco. Okay, so there was that, and everybody talked about, the players are at risk and they're dangerous. I really think if you actually got inside the brain of these free agents, it's not the protection on the street they're worried about. These guys know the difference between San Francisco crime and Chicago crime and New York crime. And they go to every city in America and they're there for 3 days. Nobody could speak. That's the other thing when people are like, what does Buster Posey know? Actually, Buster Posey knows a whole lot more about city living around the country because he's a baseball player. And for the last 15 years, all he ever does for 6 months is spend 3 days in each city. We're not doing that. He is. So he could speak to that. We can't. But I think the real protection is not about protecting these guys on the streets from people in San Francisco. It's protecting him in the lineup. You're not going to get anybody to sign here. You're not getting Soto, Judge. You're not getting Shohei. You're not getting anybody to sign here when all you have as far as protection is Yaz and Flores and, coming into the year, Slater. That's not protection.
Right. Here's the thing.
You have to have Chapman because he is a major league hitter who potentially could protect was some hitter that you signed this offseason. So I understand why they did it. I understand they can't sign free agents. Nobody wants to sign here. They have a guy who likes it here, and so they had to sign him. But
right.
6 years.
Snell's 100% going to opt out. You don't win National League Pitcher of the Month in the same month that your entire team shits the bed and think,
why didn't they trade him if he's going to opt out?
I'm just telling you, they're not particularly good at this, but I don't have a problem with Matt Chapman. Of course, 6 years sounds a little bit too long for anyone's liking, but like you said, he wants to stay. He wants to be here. The guy's the best third base glove in baseball. He is their best hitter in the lineup. You talk about protection. He could use some. He could provide some if somebody is there for him. The San Francisco Giants cannot offer everyone in baseball, hey, we're going to put you in a tax bracket you'd rather not be in a tax state you'd rather not live in, and then go ahead and then, you have nobody helping you through this lineup at all. Oh, and you have an incredibly hard to hit in ballpark with the home of the 419 foot out to right center field. That is a tough sell. That's a very, very tough sell. So I think that Matt Chapman is good for business. 6 years is too much, but I don't mind it at all. Matt, how about this? I haven't complained about Matt Chapman not once all season long, and that makes him the rarest of San Francisco Giants. Is Krueger out? Did Krueger lose this bad boy on his end? Normally he reappears by now. Is it up to me to wrap this bad boy up today? Feels like it might be. You ain't signing no pitchers with this shitty third baseman. There you go. Shortstop's been an adventure. Damon, he did say 10:30. I think he did say 10:30, but he's got something I think with Chase coming up at 10:30. So he wouldn't have just clicked out like that. I mean, no, of course. People are like, damn, Larry just ghosted Damon for his 10:30.
I'm back. Had an audio issue, tech issue, but I'm back.
I knew it. I wasn't that worried. Good to see you again. And look, we were about to hop off the train anyway, but I agreed with most of what you just said about Matt Chapman. You can't offer, Major League Baseball, no protection, and, the National League's only 419 foot out in center field and say, come here and play great baseball. So I think Chapman is the least of the Giants' problems. I don't mind it.
Yeah, I see. I don't understand. My only thing, I guess my other side thought on the Chapman thing is how it affects or how it impacts Farhan. I don't want Farhan back. I've seen enough of Farhan. I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't need it. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think he's building towards anything. I think he's done some positive things. I think he's done some negative things, but your overall, the buck stops with me. You're the tone setter as the GM. The tone's awful. It's a rudderless tone. It doesn't, I'm done with Farhan. I need Farhan out.
I will say that Farhan is not an unmitigated disaster. He does have his benefits. There are things that he does do and evaluate well, but that is overshadowed by what he doesn't do and what the incompletes are. And what is it, year 6 for him? Is it year 6, Larry?
Yeah.
It can't be cataclysmically unimpressive in year 6. And it is cataclysmically unimpressive. And the thing that if I were the Giants that I would be angry at, how is it that baseball is far and away the sport where money invested in product dictates end of season results? You spend X amount of money on a baseball team, chances are it is going to appear in the playoffs more often than not. The Giants have this huge budget for a baseball team that is going nowhere.
They can't even get anybody to take their money.
But yet they've spent so much of it. For a team,
and he spent it so.
They spent it poorly.
The Farhan apologists will sit there and talk endlessly about all the bad contracts he inherited. He has issued as many bad contracts as he ever inherited.
Well, and what's really wrong with his contracts are the ones where you need to lock that guy up, are the guys who got I can opt out anytime I want. And the guys that let's find out really who he is, are the guys who get locked up right away, like the Jung-Hoo Lee deal. Like, did you really need to go that hard, that high?
He got totally taken. Dude, Farhan spent $19 million a year on Jung-Hoo Lee. $19 million a year for 6 years. I mean, Jung-Hoo Lee's nice. Jung-Hoo Lee's never going to hit 20 homers. He's never going to steal 20 bases. For that reason alone, you can't pay him $19 million a year. The Giants are paying him what the Astros are paying Yordan Alvarez. I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's like, what are we talking about? That was a horrendous signing, even if you like him. I do like him. I think he can play a little center field. He's got a nice arm, but now he's got a shoulder injury that's been hurt twice, and he's making $19 million a year for the next 5 years with no power, no speed. So I don't know. I mean, come on, man. Farhan, thanks for coming. We gotta go in a different direction.
I would definitely.
And I'm not overly tied to Melvin either. I'm not. There's nothing wrong with Melvin per se, but he's just low ebb, low energy. Yeah, I think he's lost his effectiveness. I really do.
I mean, He was not the glue that put the Padres together. You can argue that the Padres are better off without Bob Melvin in the dugout. They've been playing really good baseball lately. Again, I'm not really going to hold it against Melvin. You can only play the cards that you're dealt. I think he's got a lousy hand of cards thanks to the general manager who's the dealer. I would replace the dealer. It's not the worst dealer I've ever seen, but just, again, we're deep enough into now to where I need to be impressed by something. And I can't even really put my finger on the thing that I'm deeply impressed by Farhan. I'm not seeing the extracted value. He came up with one Lamont Wade Jr. He hasn't found 4 others. So,
but I mean, he was billed, Damon. He was sold to us as this super creative deal maker. Show me his super creative deals. He doesn't have any.
Doesn't really have them.
I mean, they traded. They took on Zach Cozart's money, and so they could get Will Wilson. So they took on $13.7 million. That's as close as we'll get to a creative deal. They took on 13.7 of Zach Cozart's money to attach so that the Angels would attach a prospect named Will Wilson. Well, that's great. But Will Wilson hasn't made it. So you spent $13.7 million for a single prospect that hasn't made it. So that's a bust. The calling the press conference for Correa and backing out, that was a black eye. That made the Giants look like just absolute jokers. The last year trade deadline, talking all this big talk and then trading for AJ Pollock. I mean, what the hell was that? This year, you had Bumgarner. Did you sell him for prospects? No. You had Carlos Rodon. Did you sell him for prospects? No. You have Blake Snell, who's probably the hottest pitcher in baseball, second half of the year. You probably could have gotten somebody's top 5 prospect. Did you trade him for that prospect? No. So you're not all in the name of let's send messages. We don't want to send messages about we're not in it. You were never in it. I saw Mark Willard the other day on Twitter say, that's it. They're finally done. They never started.
They were never in it.
They were never in it. The Giants never were more than 2 games over 500 all year. Don't tell me they're out of it. They were never in it.
They were never in it, not for a minute. And the minute that Robbie Ray had his good, he's back, he looks good, they should have traded him instantly.
Right.
Instantly. But no.
How about this one? You're going young, but Joey Bart, you can't have Joey Bart, but you can have Tom Murphy. Tom Murphy is just Joey Bart with a couple extra $1 million. That's all Tom Murphy is. And so you trade Joey Bart for nothing, and Joey Bart plays decently, and then you go with Tom Murphy, he gets hurt. Then you trade Jorge Soler at the trade deadline because you're opening up room for Marco Luciano. Luciano gets called up. He kind of Cadillacs it down the first base line. You banish him to the minors. Right. So now he's in the minor leagues, and you're playing guys like Wisely. So, I mean, come on, man. Thank you, Farhan, for your tenure.
Jorge Soler to make room for a guy that you instantly walk away from. It doesn't fit together. And look, Larry, if we talk any more Giants, we're going to lose the entire audience. And I know we got to run.
We're done anyway. Well, I'm done anyway. Rakib Jumani says, "Morning, gents. Thank you, Rakib."
Thank you, Rakib. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks to Sam's for sponsoring. Larry, we need to make a plan to be down at the Sam's Chowder and see who wants to come down and meet us, right? Maybe they'll give us a back room. We'll all go in. We got to strategize.
Let's do a meet and greet at Sam's. I totally agree. When do you want to do it? We're doing a meet and greet. We're doing a couple meet and greets.
We'll have off the air, and then we'll come back on the air and give everyone the results.
Yeah. Well, but we will do one. We'll definitely do one at Sam's this year.
Look, we're back so you guys can meet us. We're back on 9 a.m. Monday morning. It'll be game day, and football days don't get better than game day. So next time Larry and I both come to you and talk to you, it will be game day. And that's the day we've all been waiting for. Thanks so much for watching. Larry, thanks so much for watching, for going to the Chowder House. I might have to take the Miata out and the top down, drive down the one, the hair blowing in the breeze.
There's nothing better than game day. And I told Coach and I told Trevor, hey, you know what? We haven't won shit here in Jacksonville. But guess what? We're about to continue not winning shit here in Jacksonville.
Bye.